Hey gang, how's it going? So every end of summer, around the first week of school, I come to you guys and I tell you what I learned this summer. I have found that through the whimsy and the crazy of summer, there's always something I learn, and then I come to you guys and I tell you guys about it. So here I am. I realized this summer that I would like to open up about an issue I have had regarding church things. And I know that in the past when I've talked about church things, or when I have talked about church, I've tried not to be too open about church stuff. I talk about God and I talk about Christ pretty freely, but when it comes to like my own church, I don't talk much about it. I mentioned the end of last year or the beginning of this year that I wanted to be more open with you guys, and I feel like it's time. I did not tell you in the past because I worried how those around me would react, and I was scared, and so therefore with that fear that I had, it kept me quiet. So I realized I just need to talk about it because this is something that I'm going through, and I'm not here to say anything bad about my church, and I won't say which church it is. I realized a couple years ago that I suffer from what is called Religious Trauma Syndrome, and Religious Trauma Syndrome is kind of a newer concept, a newer idea, and so that's why like many people still haven't heard about it. I wanted to tell you guys like a small definition of what religious trauma syndrome is, as well as the symptoms of religious trauma syndrome, and then I can link a website or two below if you would like some more information on it. Religious trauma syndrome is a function of both the chronic abuses of harmful religion and the impact of severing one's connection with one's faith and faith community. It can be compared to a combination of PTSD and complex PTSD. Now, I don't feel like I was raised in such a strict religion that I suffer from like severe PTSD. I do feel like I suffer at times from a mild form of it. The symptoms include cognitive, affective, functional, and social or cultural dysfunctions. Everything from confusion, anxiety, panic attacks, sleep and eating disorders, and substance abuse to difficulty with decision making and critical thinking, lack of meaning, suicidal ideation, and rupture of family and social network. The symptom is the fear also of the rupture of family and social network. So I kept this quiet for, when I realized this, I opened it up to my husband, and I told my husband, and he was the only one that knew. And when I tried to tell a couple close friends who are also in the church, because about 90% of the people that I am in communication with are of this church, so I don't have very many avenues to go to. If I go to someone who is not in the church, I feel like they don't understand because they haven't lived in the church like I have. I was born and raised in the church, and so I worry to them that it's more like oh well, just leave it, like just stop believing and leave it, kind of like just stop believing in Santa Claus kind of a thing, and it's not that easy. So about last year I decided to test the waters a little bit, and I talked to a couple friends, a couple trusted friends about this, and it didn't go over well. They came back and said that instead of it being the church that made me feel this way, it was probably my poor understandings, like maybe I just truly misunderstood church my whole life, that my parents brought this upon me, or that it was just bad church leaders, which of course it was bad church leaders. Man are what teaches this church, so of course it was poor church leaders. And then I'm always told again that I need to, I'm sorry, I did not want to cry. I'm gonna really try hard not to cry, because you guys, I'm so over this. I feel like I go to people and I am getting, I've been more open the past month with friends and family. My family has been very understanding, and so I appreciate that. But I feel like to the people that I open up to, I feel like it's either something they don't want to hear, because here in to their defense, it looks like I'm speaking negative of the church, and so therefore they don't want to hear that because that's negative, and And when someone loves the church, they don't want to hear or think that there is a negative light casted on the church. So they either don't want to hear it, or they're either very supportive, or they are supportive and then say the whole, well, it probably was more that you misunderstood. It probably was your parents. It probably was your bad church leaders. When bringing this up to anyone as well kind of is tied along with a good solid hour to 2 hour conversation about everything. I explain how I feel, and then I am told that I just need to continue remembering what the true core teachings of this church are, and to not forget what I know and stuff like that. And I'm not saying this at all to say that the advice given to me has been poor, because I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it to you guys as it has been. And today, I just feel really, really tired. And it's really hard to talk about these things with anyone within my church. It just is difficult, you know, and one reason why I have kept it a secret for so long is because I worried that saying anything negative about the church would have me shunned, would have me losing friendships, if not like really hurting the friendship. And so I didn't like how I felt so controlled by fear. You know, here I grew up being controlled by fear and shame, and of course we all know Christ never taught using fear or shame, and yet I felt like I was controlled by it and that I lived my life by it. And when you think about it, if Christ is love, then what is not love? What is fear? What is shame? What is anger? Then that's all Satan. I didn't like the thought that I was being controlled out of fear, because who wins? You know, like, okay, I read my scriptures, I said my prayer, and I did that good deed for today. Christ should be really happy, but I was scared into reading my scriptures. I was scared into praying. I was scared into doing this service project because Christ would be so disappointed in me if I didn't, or my peers would be disappointed, or I have a leader who is expecting me to read X amount of scriptures until Sunday, and I must live up to that expectation. And I understand that everything is free will and free choice in life, and that is taught in our church as well. But I feel like I'm not trying to offend anyone. I feel like I'm given free will and free choice, but like if I say no, there's a string of guilt. Because of all this, I have decided that I will call the shots when it comes to remaining in my church. I just attend on Sundays. I don't attend anything else. If it's so important to my family and to my friends that I attend church, then I must call the shots. Because I don't want to attend church to be reminded of the things that hurt me. And I do know there were many times where I was taught things by a person, and I remember my heart just screaming that it was wrong, and then being told that it was true and right and correct, and how I figured that because this is coming from Christ, be it through a person, that my heart must be wrong. And so therefore I felt like I spent the better part of my life not even listening to my heart. Granted, there are some great things that I know I've done in this life, and I do know that I would not be here had I not lived the life that I was born into. So I'm grateful for this life. Don't get me wrong. There are times where I look back on my life quite sad and angry, because I feel like I was misinformed, I was taught wrong, and that I could have been saved from suffering from so much sadness and anxiety. And you know, you read the symptoms and I'm like, wow, like the majority of those are things that I suffer or have suffered from. I'm working on it, and I'm proud of myself that I'm willing to work on it. I've reached a point now where I have to just be open about it. The hard part is that I'm told that I need to be mindful of the people who listen to the things I say, and to be careful, you know, because I could hurt their feelings and stuff like that. And I feel like even in this video, I can't be fully, like, raw with you guys because of that. I felt like I didn't have much of a voice anyway in this church because I was a woman. I've talked with many women, and I have heard, so, like, it's almost like split in half. Half of them have said that they have felt nothing but love and respect, and then the other half have felt the same as me, where they just felt like they didn't have much of a say, they didn't have much importance in the church. So I felt like I didn't really have a voice in the church unless it was, like, convenient. Now that I'm older, that I feel like that's changed. I feel like there's been a vast change to make sure that the women feel like they are of importance. So it could be that it could just be something that maybe I wasn't seeing growing up. It could be my leaders. It makes me sad. I'm gonna be honest, you guys. It makes me sad, but also very frustrated that here I have what this is, and I feel like because of the feelings of everyone else who's listening, that I need to again have no voice. And what sucks, like, is that I understand why I should be careful with the things I say. I am not out to make anyone feel miserable about what they believe. If you are happy believing what you believe, then keep believing it. That's all I'm for. Like, if you are happy, just keep being happy. I can't tell you how many years I spent in unhappiness, like, and then to have happiness finally, like, the light switched on and it's like, wow, this is what happiness is? So chase the happiness. If your happiness is in your church, stay going to your church. I'm not going to be someone who's going to come to you and say, well, did you know? So I do understand that I kind of have to tiptoe a little bit so that I don't damage people's beliefs in their church. But at the same time, I feel like it's snuffing and pushing under the rug the things that I have experienced. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to have the victim stamp on my forehead or anything like that. I don't think that I've gone through all that I've gone through just to come here and cry that I'm some victim. No, what I want to do, and in thinking about this, because I knew I needed to tell you guys eventually, but I needed to be prepared for it. And I feel strongly that I was to come and tell you guys just to raise awareness. Because, again, 90% of the people that I converse with are in this church. And I do talk to them a lot, and I do hang out with them, and I see them online, I see them on social media, and it kills me to think that some of them are unknowingly going through what I've been through. I want to raise awareness because even if it wasn't the church, whatever church it may be that put you through this, even if it was your poor understandings of the teachings, even if it was your parents, even if it was your terrible leaders, that it still happened, and you still need to be validated in it, and you still need to heal. And it is not as easy as just turning off the belief and moving forward, that there are consequences that happen, internal battles that happen within, and the fear that you have, that you already have, you know, being in this church, and then the fear is expounded when you realize that you need to take steps back. And for those who want to leave, the fear of that, what are we gonna lose if we leave? Oh, we could possibly lose everything. Our whole social standing could possibly be torn down if we leave. I feel again like my church and the people in my church are becoming much more understanding, at least as of late. So I do think there's progress being made, but that doesn't ignore the fact that I feel like I went through a lot. And that I feel like I was to ignore my own inner compass because it was told to me that what my inner compass was telling me was wrong. So if you at all have noticed a struggle within me when I talk about church things, like when I talked about how I no longer wanted to be a Bible study teacher, you know, those kind of things. And if you at all notice the struggle, it was the fear and the worry that to say anything would make this all come crashing down. I've reached a point now, and I think this is why I needed to be prepared. I reached a point now where, like, I really no longer care what anyone thinks of me. I am God's child. And finding God, I know that each and every one of us is a part of God. If God created us, created the universe and all that stuff, so we have within our soul's DNA God. Part of God is within us. And I feel that to find God is just going within your heart, because the answers are already programmed there. It's been quite liberating, actually, to not really care what people think about me. And in the process, I find that I am much more accepting of other people. I think truly that's how God works. He put us all down here to be us, not to be anyone else, and we are to accept that. That is it. That is what's been going on with me these past couple years. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. This is a topic that I'm not certain that I don't know. It just depends. I don't know if I'm going to talk more about this. It depends on how it's received. And I have a lot of people in my real life who are a part of this community and a part of this church who watch my videos and whose kids watch my videos. I have family and nieces and nephews who watch my videos, you know, and so I don't know if I want to expand more on it. I worry almost that I might have said too much, but I can't not say anything anymore, and I really feel like that's where God's putting me, and God is putting me in front of this camera and wanting me to say something about it. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll catch you on the flip. Bye guys.